Namaste. My name is Todd and I'm the founder of Ashaya Yoga. Great to be with you today in this Asana Spotlight, which is a time we just take about 15-20 minutes and focus on usually just one asana to go into some more of the technical details, give you some options for how to modify the pose, talk about the benefits, contraindications of the poses. So today's posture is, before I always forget, please share this experience with your friends and with your lists to help people understand yoga and get a really good stretch. So thank you. I appreciate you sharing this experience with as many people as you can. Today's pose is going to be Trikonasana. The technical word is Uttita Trikonasana. Uttita means extended. And Trikona, tri means three and kona means angle. So it's the extended three-angle pose, Trikonasana. And I usually just call it Trikonasana for short. And this posture is an excellent pose for stability, for developing strength, and for getting a little more flexibility in the legs and also the hips. There's no real contraindications unless you have a pulled hamstring muscle or difficulty in your back, maybe bulging discs in your back. You want to be a little bit careful. But in general, even if you have really tight hamstrings and hips, you can do this pose. I'm going to show you how to do it with some modifications because it is quite challenging for those who are really tight in the areas of the hips and the legs. But that's why we practice yoga, is to loosen up. So sometimes the most difficult poses for us are the ones that we need to do the most. Okay, so let's get started. Come to a standing position and come to the front of your mat. Stand with your feet hip distance apart and parallel. Hands on your hips. Lift and spread your toes. When you lift your toes, make sure your feet don't turn out. And then hug your legs to the middle. We create more stability that way. Move your thigh bones back, tailbone in. And then inhale, stretch your arms up. And exhale, fold, lead with your heart. Sweep your arms out to the side and come down to the floor with your hands. And if you can't reach the floor, you're going to grab two blocks and set your blocks up just like this so that your hamstrings don't have to kill. So they can actually just have a nice gentle stretch. Bend your knees, make sure your shins are perpendicular, and then isometrically pull your heels backwards. Take your thighs back, tailbone in. Keep the shin line perpendicular. And then exhale, pull your tailbone in and bow. Full deep breaths now. Try to move your sitting bones toward your heels more. Pull your belly in, lift your ribs off your thighs. And bow. Pull the head of your arm bones back and relax your head, relax your neck and shoulders. Just take a few moments to be here in Uttanasana. We are preparing for Trikonasana by getting the hamstrings a little more open. And what's really nice is your whole head and nervous system is bathed in relaxation here. Take some nice deep breaths. Connect with your body. And then exhale, step back, downward facing dog pose. Alternately press your heels, bend the opposite knee, and just go back and forth like you're pedaling. And breathe. And then bend both knees. Hug your shins toward the middle. Turn your thighs in and lift your sitting bones. Produce a low back curve. Try to get your sitting bones to go up more and more and more. At the same time, claw both hands and lift your armpits up. And then melt between the shoulder blades. Draw your tailbone in. And from your heart, push down into your hands. And then from your heart, root the base of your shins back. And try to get your heels to go in the direction of the floor. Full breaths now. Stretch it out. Inhale, come into plank. Slowly lower down through Chaturanga Dandasana, all the way down. Point your toes back, hug your legs. Come up, mini cobra. Shoulders back now. Lengthen your side ribs, head of the arm bones back. Hug the back of your shoulder blades into the ribs, the back ribs. Slide your palms isometrically backwards. Now from your pelvic core, root to the earth, back through your toes, and from your pelvis up through your heart. Just let the heart melt as it opens, but the head of the arm bones stay back. We need stability to gain more freedom. So the more stable your shoulders are, more free your heart is. And then exhale down, push back to downward facing dog pose, and then step by step walk in until your feet are hip distance apart. Root down through your feet, sweep your arms out to the side, come on up, look up, and then exhale. Release your arms to the sides and in front of the heart. Come on over to a wall. If you have a wall space there, and you can move your mat right up against the wall or door, whatever you have. And then stand leg distance from the wall and bring your arms up, hands to the wall. Walk back just a bit. Make a 90-degree angle. Hands are just a little higher than the hips. Wrist creases point toward the ceiling, and then lift your armpits up. Especially the inner armpits, melt the heart. Bend your knees and lift your sitting bones more. Stick your butt back, and then draw your tailbone in. So you have curve and length in the low back, and push from your pelvis down through your feet, and also push into the wall with your hands. And hold. Then inhale, come up, and step your right foot at the wall so that the ball mounds of your feet are in the corner, and the toes curl up the wall. If you have a heater vent or a cove molding there, let me show you how you can sort of fix that. You put a block here, and then it's a nice smooth edge, usually, and your toes can go right up like that. We're going to do Trikonasana, just an easy form of it at the wall. So the wall is going to help us balance. Step your back foot back, happens to be my left foot. And both legs are straight to start. So the right foot is out 90 degrees, but the left foot is in at parallel to the back edge of the mat. How wide should your legs be? As wide as your wrists are wide. So ankles as wide as wrists. Now for some people that's a little bit too much, and so you're going to shorten the stance a bit. You start to feel a pull in your hamstrings. Hands to your hips. Find your breath. Remember the bigger energy. And then hug your legs. Scissor the legs toward the midline. The right heel should bisect the center of the back foot. Pull the kneecaps up the leg a little bit more. And to do that, you got to engage the quadricep muscles more. Pull up from feet to pelvis. And that's going to really create stability. Now, thighs back, tailbone in, stretch your right arm up, lean, pivot right from the hip joint, and bring your right hand up a little bit higher to the wall. What's nice is you can lean into your hand here, pull your armpit back, stretch through the underside of your ribs, the right ribs, and then you can stretch your left arm up a little bit higher here. And what helps create a little more space and fluidity in the spine is if you turn your thighs in and stick your butt back. This pose is often taught where you sandwich your hips between two planes of glass, which creates too much external rotation of the hips, and then you lose the low back curve. So thighs back, just stick your butt out. And then that gives you the curve. Now you've got all the freedom, opens up the hip joint, and you can really hinge and go in a little bit deeper. And of course, once you get into the pose, now you pull your tailbone in and you take the outer right hip crease back and down to kind of tighten it up a little bit. Let's do a little variation. Take your left arm all the way up to the wall as well. Good. From your pelvis, root through your feet, and then inhale, come up. Step your feet back together, rest for a moment. Feel the effect of the stretch in the right leg, and let's switch. Left toes up the wall, ball mounds on the floor. And sometimes just that stretch is really intense for the toes. So you could move your foot back a little bit so that your toes are not going up the wall or on the block. Otherwise, get the stretch in your toes. Step your left foot back, right foot back, sorry, and square the right foot to the back edge of your mat. Heel to center of the arch, hands to hips, hug, and then pull up from the feet to the pelvis. And you want to watch that you don't hyperextend the front leg, the front knee. And the hyperextension will actually tighten up your back. So a little micro bend is needed to keep the legs straight. Squeeze your legs. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hinge from the left hip and left hand to the wall for a little bit of support. Take your right arm up a little bit higher. Now, take your thigh bones back, tail in, and really pull the outer left hip crease. It goes back this way, but it also hugs in. Every in-breath, just pull from your feet into the center of the triangle, right at the apex of the triangle, which is in the pelvis. Energy pools there. And then it's also a pivot, because from that center, that's where you begin to radiate out. So from your pelvis, push down through your feet, up through your spine, out through your arms and head. And then we'll just add this variation, bring your right arm up, and then both arms to the wall as best you can. Lengthen your left ribs more. Soften the right ribs, the top ribs. Root down through your feet and inhale, come up and step your feet back together. All right, so that's pretty much the warm-up. Let's do it in the middle of the floor now. So move your mat back to your space, away from the wall. Have a block ready, because as we go down lower to the floor, you might need to elevate the floor to be able to reach. Take a wide stance. And then measure ankles as wide as wrists, or just slightly less. Square your left foot to the back edge, hands to hips, turn your right foot open. And breathe. Set your foundation. And then pull up from your feet to the pelvis. This increases stability. So you pull up, hug in with stability, thighs back, tail in, stretch your arms, kneecaps. Now, the hinge is not from the waistline, which would be this. It's from the hinge of the hip, deep in the hip socket. So try to keep your ribs evenly lifted so we don't get into a hey big spender pose like this. So exhale, lengthen both sides, come into the pose, bring your left hand to your hip for a moment, walk your right hand over to the left, to the inside a little bit more, and this is where you can put a block, hug your legs, and then you turn your thighs in, stick your butt back behind you. That's going to free up hamstrings, going to free up your low back. There should be no pain in your back. And then pull your tailbone in. Legs stable, just hug in. All right, and once you've got this, then begin to move the right hand either to the inner ankle side or the outer ankle. And if you don't need a block, you can go down on eagle talons here on the fingers. And I like to put my wrist and forearm against the shin for a little additional stability. Then turn your heart up to the sky. From your pelvis, root through your feet. And from your pelvis, lengthen through your spine. Left arm up. Lengthen. The left ribs have to soften because often they're yanked up like this. So soften the top ribs, but lengthen the lower ribs. The ribs on the right side. Good. Bring your left arm straight out to the side. Pull your armpit back. So we want to keep this area very hollow. And then you stretch up wrist over shoulder. And once you've got the pose like this, then every inhalation, pull in from your feet to the pelvis with stability. And every exhalation, radiate your light out with freedom. From the pelvis, shine. This pose increases strength, vitality, and we just radiate out. Take your head back a little bit. You can even arch back if you're feeling more free in the pose. And then root down through your feet. Inhale and come up. Hands to hips. Switch sides. Square your right foot and turn your left foot all the way open. Hug in. Stretch your arms. And again, from the hip, hinge. Not the waistline, but the hip. And it's common to just overstretch on the left side, so keep your right side full as well. Same thing with the block. You got it on the left side. We're going to move the hand over to the right more. Right hand to your hip. And with your torso at an angle here, now you can roll the thighs in and move your sitting bones back behind you. Keeping your thighs back, pull your tailbone in. And walk your left hand, if you can, to the outside. You've got the forearm shin connection here. And hug your shins to the middle with stability. Take your thighs back again, tail in. And then stretch your right arm up. Soften the right rib. So the top ribs, instead of up here like this, oh, you got to melt. And what's going to help them melt is if you elongate your left ribs. So you could just take your hand and give your underbelly side, the left side, a little bit of length. Take your right arm out to the straight out, parallel to the floor, and pull your armpit back, and then stretch up. So we get the core of the arm back first, then the periphery can line up. Now begin. Pull in. We want to kind of pull the stability of the earth energy up through the feet and the pelvis. And then from the pelvis, just radiate out like rays of the sun. From your power center, which is the low belly area, and the pelvis, root down into the floor. And from the pelvis, radiate out through your torso, spine, arms. Okay, where to look? Placement of the head. Well, the easiest way is just look down. And then see if you can look straight out to the side, but pull your palate back more. So your head is in alignment with your neck and spine. Ultimately, we want to look up past the thumb, but we don't always have the flexibility to do that. So if you do have that, you may try it. From your pelvic core, just radiate light out in all directions. And then root down through your feet, look down, and then inhale, come up. Hands to hips. Walk your feet back to hip distance apart. And then fold Uttanasana. This will help to balance the hips. We end with a symmetrical pose. Lightly touch the floor or blocks. Bend your knees, shins perpendicular like we did in the beginning. And then lift and spread your toes.
Hug your calves forward, but take your thigh bones back more. And then draw your tailbone in, bow, armpits back, and enjoy the cultivation of strength and flexibility. To be relaxed yet focused. Root down through your feet, sweep your arms out to the side, reach all the way up. And exhale, palms in front of your heart. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel your breath. The triangle pose brings rejuvenation, vitality, strength. It's very uplifting, very positive pose, great for the path of radical affirmation. And we return to the heart, the Ashaya, which is the abode, where we're perfect just as we are, where the heart abounds with self-acceptance, self-love, courage and vulnerability, stability and freedom. To have a great rest of your day. Let's chant Om. Om. And to your own heart, gently bow. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking this time. For more instruction on asana and for all my online courses, just go to ashayayoga.com. You'll see live online courses with Todd, and come join me. I have a whole bunch of classes coming up. Okay, have a good one.